Coming up on Theater Talk.
You need a few things to work on the stage. One of them is great breath. The other is great energy. And the third is the most important, is focus.
Yeah.
If I lose any one of those, I'm going to just retire and write books.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
I don't know what to do.
About what?
We have to talk, Dad.
Well, that's what we're doing, isn't it?
I mean, seriously. This is the third one.
I said I don't need her. I don't need her or anyone. I can manage very well on my own.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post. And Susan, we're delighted to have with us. I mean, when you do the top 4 or 5 theater guests, our favorites of all time, he's either number 1, never number 2, the great Frank Langella, who we adore as an actor and as a human being and as a Theater Talk guest.
Thank you.
And Frank is giving one of the great performances I have seen in 25 years of going to the theater in this city, in a play called The Father, a new play about a man who has dementia, who has Alzheimer's. It's at the Manhattan Theater Club. And if you think you've seen Frank Langella give great performances in the past, they were great, but this is the best I've seen of yours.
Thanks, Michael.
It is amazing.
Thank you very much.
As my sister said, I took her to the other night, and when she was done crying, which was about 10 minutes, because you must hear the sobs at the end of the play every night, she said, you know, I love Frank Langella. When I see him, he is Frank Langella. He's the star. And she said, but I didn't see Frank Langella up there. I saw this man whose mind is falling apart.
Well, it's a great compliment. If you've been around as long as I have, the audience is very familiar with me in New York. If they forget it's you quickly, it's really what you aim for. It's what you want them to do.
When did this play come your way? And is it something you said, oh, I've got to do this right away? Or was this a role that you thought, whoa?
It was sent to me by Doug Hughes and Lynn Meadow at MTC. And I read it and got to 2 pages before the end. And I called Doug and said, I don't know how it ends, but I want to tell you now that I want to do it. And then I read the ending and burst into tears and said, oh, I think I made a good choice.
So for people who haven't seen the play yet, if you can just give us a sense of who this character is and what's going on.
His name is Andre. He's 80. He has the early stages, early to middle stages of dementia. And the unique convention of this play is that Florian Zeller puts you, the audience, in his head.
Exactly.
And changes the mise en scène constantly and moves the set around and changes the characters so that you are forced to see the world through my eyes, through the protagonist's eyes. And it's one of the brilliant effects of a really, I think, rather brilliant play.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because it's the only thing I've seen about Alzheimer's where I was incredibly frustrated during the play. And then you realize this is what he experienced. Because nobody is who you think they are. Your environment is not the environment you think it is.
I think it's why the play has been so immensely successful in Paris and London, and I think hopefully will be here too, is that we're all frightened of this. Everybody's frightened of losing control. Everybody's frightened of having a disease that comes on you. Remember, if you are diagnosed with this disease, it is the end. There is no way back from this disease. It isn't like cancer where you can go into remission or you can say, I've got 3 more years, 2 more years. You know you're going down a slide you'll never come back from. And it terrifies everybody. It terrified me more than any role I've ever played. I've never been so frightened of a part. And the rehearsal process was, and I like rehearsal, but I did anything I could to avoid going to the darkest places. Really? Until I absolutely had to.
It's wonderful, but I walked out devastated and scared and unhappy. How do you do it every night?
It is painful, but it's my work. It's what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't like to perform unless I perform fully and completely, technically and emotionally. So it takes a lot, but it doesn't take a lot compared to what other people do in life. You know, it's my work, and I love it. Go ahead.
Oh, well, when you're done, then how do you recover from it?
I can leave it. This one takes me longer. But then I'm older. Usually, you know, I once had dinner with a very famous young actor who said it took him 2 years to get over playing Hamlet, and I said, "You did it wrong." You know? Usually, by the time I get to my dressing room, I'm done. But with this one, it's a good hour and a half before my body stops the tension it feels in the last moments of it. It's a universal fear.
Fear, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has it, and then when you're confronted with it in a rehearsal process, you really don't want to face it.
Have you had the experience in your life? Have you known people who've had dementia? Did you draw on
My brother currently is in early stages of it, and some of the humor in this play, and there's a great deal of humor,
Yes, there is.
comes from my observing my brother, who at times is immensely funny, you know, and no matter what agony he's going through, if I give him a bowl of vanilla ice cream, he's happy. It's like a little baby. He's perfectly happy to sit and eat his ice cream and totally forgets whatever it was that was troubling him before.
But your character is not such a way.
No, well, you see, there are elements of him in it. You know, my character.
No, but I mean, your character also is fighting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doug Hughes did something remarkable for me in this play, really remarkable. I told him that this morning. He convinced me early on that the more interesting way to play this man was to see him fighting, literally until almost the last moments of the play, as opposed to what one would ordinarily do as a kind of just a vacant look. I mean, a little example is, instead of going, "What?" he said, "Say what?"
Yes.
So that you're always challenging the other characters. You're always saying you're wrong. So Doug and I developed this notion that there are 6 actors in this play. 5 of them are crazy, and I'm sane.
Yeah.
And it made it easier to find.
But that's exactly what it's about, though, because when you're talking to people and they don't understand it, you're saying, "Well, how can you not understand this? I am as clear as a bell."
You know, exactly.
In my resistance to accepting the world of the play, the inevitability of dementia, part of me went into a scenario of, well, maybe they're all just a conspiracy against him.
Yeah.
You can think, oh, maybe it's gaslighting.
I've gotten calls from people who said, "I'm sorry, I put my head down in the middle and listened, but it was too painful." I mean, we're not making a great case for ticket sales here, but it truly is doing very well, because I think there are enough people who want to see an experience like this and want to. So many people have friends and family who are going through this. You know.
With your brother, could he come to see this play? Would he?
No, he wouldn't.
The play also shows, though, the toll it takes on the people who are taking care of the man.
Yes.
The daughter,
Yeah.
her frustration, the amount of her life she has to put aside
Yeah.
to look after her dad.
Yeah. There's a lot of, you know, simplistic things now in our culture, in all respects, not just the theater. So when you get a play that is as complicated as this and forces you to sit forward, and the silences are, I work hard for dead silence in a house, no matter what I'm doing. But this play, the silence is riveting. The laughter is great, and the silence is riveting, where you don't hear a single sound, because everyone is trying so hard to figure it out, and they're also empathizing with my character.
Yes, we're with you, and we don't want to move to upset you. I mean, you Andre the character.
Oh,
yeah, not Frank Langella. You, Andre the character.
Yes, it's true.
Now you're not a matinee idol age anymore. No. When you were given this
only
play.
In my head.
Well, for some.
Yeah, well, that's true. You're still incredibly handsome man. But we know, actors of a certain age now on Broadway who are relying on the earpiece, who are having trouble with the lines. Do you have any of those fears? Was this?
Well, I did in this play, and I never had before. King Lear was a walk in the park to learn, because this play is full of ellipses and tremendous repetitions of sorry, what, over and over again. So I said to Doug, I don't think I can learn this play. I am having the worst time. I will work on a speech for days and days. So, Angela Lansbury is now famous for her big earmuffs.
The Princess Leia earmuffs hiding the wires.
More actors on Broadway now than one cares to know about who are using them. So he said, let us just fit it for you and we'll have it as a back. And they fit me. They pour glue in your ear, whatever they do, and they fit me. And then one day they brought it, and they put it in my ear, and they ran a wire here. And I said, I can't do this. I'd rather not be in the theater than have to do it. And it sort of doubled down my efforts to, and now I do the play twice a day, every day, on my own with a cure.
Oh, you do? You run the lines every day?
I run the lines every day because I just couldn't bear the idea that I was there yet. And if I ever got there, I think I'd stop.
You would?
Well, you need a few things to work on the stage. One of them is great breath. Mm-hmm. The other is great energy. And the third is the most important, is focus.
Yeah.
If I lose any one of those, I'm going to just retire and write books.
I know an actor, I don't want to name him, of a certain age, and he was having trouble in a play recently. And he talked openly about it with me, and he said, it's not that I don't have the lines. He said, I don't have the focus. Yeah. I don't have the concentration. And when I lose that, that's when I lose the line. I have the lines, but when I lose the concentration and focus, then I'm off somewhere else and I can't get back.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I've always felt this ever since I was a young actor. I've always felt an inordinate responsibility to an audience. I've always felt that it was my job, the moment the lights go up, to grab you by the throat and never let you go, as long as I can hold your attention. Not when I was younger, it was, I'm sure a lot of it was ego, but now it is about, you paid your money, I'm there, I want you to feel I'm in the room with you every second, and I want you to feel that I'm doing it for you. I don't like it when I hear actors say, oh, the hell with them, I'm doing this for me, I'm an artist. It's nonsense. You should be there in order to please an audience and enthrall them.
Well, I think the audience bears some responsibility too, and I was very pleased when I went to see the play the other night, that, because I see it in a lot of houses now, this is not a play you go with your sippy cups of wine. And I'm curious, an actor of your stature, how do you feel about performing in front of an audience now that is allowed in some shows to come in with a jug of white wine during the show? I mean, they have to bring some respect for what you are doing.
Yeah, they do. I've learned to pick my battles. When I was younger, I fought every one of those battles. And a great friend of mine, Annie Bancroft, said, the late Annie Bancroft, said, why do you keep fighting in an arena where you can't win? So I've learned if I can't win in that arena, I'll battle something else. In the old days when I was younger, I would go to management and complain about those things. But everything's changing. You know, people also come in and, little T-shirts and shorts to the theater now. They don't dress up for it anymore.
When I saw your play the other night, though, in the last scene, which is magnificently intense, cell phones went off twice. Yeah. One was the cell phone of a producer who was sitting across the aisle from me. But, I mean, and I thought, how do they stand that? I mean, you went forward. You heard that. Yeah.
You just have to, it's like everything else. I think there's so many things about getting older related to this play that are not so great. But the one great thing about getting older is this ability to allow things to go away. Mm-hmm. It's like almost like meditation. It just comes in your ear and you let it go. When you're younger, you're, why is this happening? Why is that happening? But like Annie's remark, if you can't control it, it's a waste of your energy to try and legislate it in any way possible. So I bring the cell phone in. I have an apartment in New York that's very close to a school, and very early in the morning there are dozens and dozens of little children going by my window, and I love it. I don't, when I was younger, I would regard it as an irritant, oh, you're waking me up, and now listen to those kids, it sounds great.
So the cell phone goes off and you just...
What can I do? I deal with it.
Interesting. I want to talk a little bit about your book, Drop Names, which was a big success a couple of years ago. The wonderful conceit being you wrote about people who are dead.
Oh.
Now, I know there's another volume coming because, alas, a lot of our friends have died in the last few years. Do you have enough? You have enough names for part two?
Part one was 65 people. I think I now have about 40 or 50. Uh-huh. And I go around the room at parties taking the pulses of people over 75. I did. I actually walked up to Mike Bloomberg, was nice enough to introduce my first book, and he said in his introduction, I don't know why I'm not in this book. And then I realized it was about dead people. So I went up and took his pulse. But I have a lot of friends, many of them there last night, who were in their middle 80s. You know.
Yeah. So the second book will have our friend Elaine Stritch, who was a friend.
Elaine Stritch, Robin Williams, Mike Nichols, Lauren Bacall, Joan Rivers, lots of people who are, in a way, more current, I think, to the reading audience than my first book, which had people in it from the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. There's somebody said of the book last night, we were talking, I forgot who it was now. He said, well, you know what I loved about Frank's book, Drop Names? It's really high-class gossip with people well observed. He said, but Frank brings this little strain of lethalness to the portrayal of the people in the book.
I made a, Chris Plummer said this to me after he read my book. He said, I wish I hadn't been so nice in mine, because I made the decision when I started writing it that I was only going to write about people who were gone,
right,
and my memories of them, and I was going to say what I really felt. And I held back a lot of things that I felt would be too personal.
Yeah.
And I read to the family members of those people that I hadn't liked and about whom I was somewhat critical. I read it to them and said, is this okay? And almost all, I think to a person, they said, that was my dad, that was my uncle.
Right.
Fine, that's your opinion, it's fine. But I wanted to write a book. You can't be in this profession for 53 years and not have made enemies, not have disliked people,
sure,
not have had torrid love affairs, not have had feuds or fights. It would be a dishonest book to say, oh, darling, honey, sweetie, everybody just loved everybody. It's not interesting to read either, and it's not true.
You ever see a time when you would retire from the business? I mean, you do a performance like this. I'm thinking of Richard Nixon and Frost Nixon. I thought, well, it's just, it's not going to get any better than this. And then this comes along. I mean, you're always going to be looking for the next big one.
Well, if I have the things I talked about earlier, yeah, I'll keep going. And if I'm going to play a woman next, which I've wanted to do for years.
What is that?
I'm going to do a revival of Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Honey in the Closet. And I'm going to play the great, marvelous old lady in that, who was played by Jo Van Fleet. In the original.
Who's going to be in it with you, do you know?
Michael Uri is going to play the boy.
And where are you going to do Oh Dad, Poor Dad?
We're at the moment negotiating with a production in La Jolla, which we'll then hopefully bring to New York, 2017. Mm-hmm. It's getting harder and harder at my age to find things that I feel are going to, and I say this truly with all humility, scare the living crap out of me. Mm-hmm. I've done some 22 Broadway shows now and about 10 off and many in regional theaters. I just want to be frightened. I really want to be unsure. And in the best possible sense of the word, I was really off base rehearsing this play. I just felt, and I had it for a year. And every time I went to pick it up, I'll memorize next week, I'll do it. I didn't know until I got deep into rehearsal how scared I was. One, of my own mortality. Two, of my ability to do it, mm-hmm, and my strength and all that. And I can't thank Doug enough. And also, every production is a different kind of quote-unquote cliche family. Mm-hmm. And this particular family is breathtaking. Everyone, the actors, the sets, the designers, the theater, the world of it. And it needs to be, mm-hmm, for this. And we're doing a play about somebody who's losing their mind, and we never laugh so much in rehearsal, making fun of it. We do line throughs, yeah, and we rip it to shreds in line throughs.
We're taping right after you opened, yeah, and you received rave reviews. Now, going into it, did you expect such
well, first of all, I agreed to do this show many weeks ago.
Yes, you
when
did.
I was in a fit of insecurity, and I thought, suddenly looked and said, oh, it's the day after I opened. But more important than that, and seriously, yesterday afternoon, I was thinking, oh God, it's opening night again. And I've got those anxious little butterflies, and can I do this? And why did I choose this? And all that stuff. And I walked into my pharmacist, and I was waiting, and there was a gentleman standing next to me who was 84 years old. And he was waiting to get his medication, and he began talking to my friend, the pharmacist, Ivan. And he said, it's back. I've got my cancer back. I've got it here. I've got one under my arm, and I've got one in my rib somewhere. And then he began to talk, and he was been fighting cancer for 20 years. And I started to talk to him, and he started to tell me, I'll take this medication. This is going to make me throw up. I got to do chemo again. I'm out flat for chemo. But you know, he said with a big smile, it's not going to get me. Yes. And he turned around, skinny, very thin, ravaged by this disease, and sauntered out of the pharmacy. And I thought, what am I worried about? What am I concerned about? You know, I'm going to go to a theater tonight. I'm going to practice my craft. As my character says, I still have the use of my hands, my arms, my legs. I can breathe, I can think, I can, you know, why do we make ourselves so crazy? When the basic fundamental things of life are now all I really do want to care about, which is who loves me, who do I love, have a good meal, have a good occasional lovemaking, and you know, all those basic things.
And be good at my job.
Yes, that's really all that matters now.
How did the young Frank Langella respond to the rave reviews compared to the older Frank Langella?
Oh, back when you were Dracula.
looking at his reviews the morning.
Well, the really young Frank Langella and his young wife, my first wife, we were 22. The first show I did was called The Immoralist at the Bowery Lane Theater in 1963, the year President Kennedy was shot. And that was the time when all the critics jumped out of their seats and ran up the aisle to make a deadline.
Yeah.
And the paper would appear. And her name was Kathleen. She's left us. And she and I got on a subway after the show was over. And we went to the New York Times building because it would be my first time of being reviewed in the New York Times. And we went and waited by the machine. And then somebody came out of the New York Times building. It was a dime then. And they wouldn't give it to us. You get it out of the machine. They put the Times in a machine, closed it, locked the glass. I took a dime, I put it in, and lifted it up to see what my future was. And I pulled it out, and the ink was still wet. So I'm thumbing through the New York Times with wet fingers, and there's my picture and my first review.
Which was a good review, I take it.
It was Frank Langella, not that I remember. Frank Langella is a young actor of uncommon promise. It was my first review from Howard Taubman.
Howard Taubman, right.
Yeah, 1963.
That's right.
So the old Frank Langella doesn't do that. But, and of course, it doesn't have the same, look, everybody wants affirmation. Everybody wants validation. I think any actor who says, I don't care about reviews is lying to you. Mm-hmm. You want to be told by your mom and dad you did a nice job. Yeah. So when you're a grown-up, why shouldn't you want to be told by the dad of the Times or the dad of whatever the lead? It's disingenuous to say you don't care. I do care. But it doesn't define me. Mm-hmm. It used to define me, you know, and now it doesn't anymore. Mm.
So we don't put the dime in anymore, but you have home delivery, I imagine.
You can press delete if you want to.
I see the world that you're from, just getting those overnight reviews, that there's an excitement to that. And I was at the opening night and looked around, all the press, they're all on the black press. And I thought, it's just not as glamorous as Sardi's when that rave review comes in and they stand on the chair and you lived through that.
And I've lived through that era. And also, the other thing is, if you don't do the cell phone business at the party, and I don't do any of it, ordinarily in the old days, as you're driving home, somebody stops and grabs the Times from the corner, mm-hmm. and you read it. Well, there are no more papers on the corner anymore. You can drive around New York for hours now and not find a newspaper stand that's open. Everybody's doing it on the...
Where were you last night when the Times review got to you?
I had a group of my own friends, and we were away from the party.
And then they said, here it is.
Well, there was a man sitting across from me who now represents me, who was staring down at his whatever they do, and he was reading, and this little white light was hitting his face, and I watched him. Then he put it away, and he said, you know, this is the first opening night I've ever spent with you. Do you like to know anything? And I looked at him and I said, is there anything I should know?
Well, in case you don't know, Frank,
yes.
The reviews were pretty spectacular for you.
Thank you.
The play is The Father, at the Manhattan Theater Club. A great, great play that gives a great actor a chance to do what he does better, I think, than anybody else. Frank Langella in The Father, don't miss it.
You say that to all the boys.
We flatter our guests, but sometimes, Frank, we mean it. I think we met it every time you've been on this show.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure to be with you both.
And congratulations on the success of the play.
Thank you.
It's been going on for some time. Strange things going on around me. Haven't you noticed? There was this man claiming this wasn't my flat, a very unsympathetic looking man. A bit like your husband, only worse. You understand what I'm saying? In my flat, he told me. You understand? It really takes the cake. He told me that this wasn't my flat, but this is my flat, isn't it? This is my flat, isn't it? Tell me, Anne. This really is my flat, isn't it?
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you.